What up, y'all? It's the Robot Watcher, back with another all-season video. Grab your binoculars or not, because we just gonna chat. But let's talk about the real X factor on defenses nowadays. Now, I don't know how I came up, I want to say 2006, I started watching football. Back in the day, you needed a good middle linebacker, a good outside linebacker, good Sam Will, all that. Linebacking core where the heart of your defense was. It was like the quarterback of the offense, which it still is now whenever you get a guy with a green button or whatever, green sticker on their head, you know, to communicate with the defense stuff. But nowadays, I feel like the third most, I could maybe argue second, but the third most important position on the defense is your nickel. And it's not a traditional nickel. It's these new age nickels that are coming into the game, which we're going to cover 3 of them today from the past 3 draft classes that have came in and kind of changed how you view the nickel slash safety position, almost like a rover back in the day. So the first guy I want to cover is a guy that came in last year. Your boy Brian Branch. I feel like Brian Branch is much more of your traditional nickel. He's going to line up in the nickel formation. He's going to be able to blitz sometimes, but mostly he's there to play straight up corner, cover corner. But the reason that these guys are so impactful is because of their ability to create turnovers and get their nose and hands on the football. Now, Brian Branch, he is much more of a toned down version of what I'm talking about, but it's just kind of, I wanted to cover 3 guys from the past draft classes, and he was probably the best guy at this. He went into the second round, and because of how good he played, especially in that first game against Patrick Mahomes, and especially against this game against the Vikings, which I'm using a lot of my clips from, he showed everybody that he really was a first round talent. And because we devalued the nickel position, he went in the second round. But one of the best rookies last year, he could have won. He wouldn't have won Defensive Rookie of the Year, but he definitely should have been in the running for it if he wasn't already. I don't know what place he came in, but a really, really good player. Like I said, just your traditional cover guy. He's going to be able to press, get his hands on the guy, cover him on crossing routes, cover him on cross of running through traffic, things like that. He's going to be able to play outside. He lined up a lot against Justin Jefferson in his game in the red zone, things like that with switch releases. And he did really, really good. He was able to get his hands on the ball. He's a playmaker, and that's what you want from your nickel position. Almost like Brian Branch almost reminds me of how maybe Deron Bland will be, or he'll be like how Deron Bland is, where he can get a whole bunch of turnovers and really create momentum for your defense and things like that. And that's what you want. You want to create turnovers, get the ball back into your offense's hands as a defense. You don't just want to play bend, no, don't break no more. You want to put points up on the board, and putting points up on the board for the defense, if it isn't scoring, it's just simply creating turnovers and getting your offense in great field position. And with the great coverage that he has, I think he has the playmaking ability to improve his hands, things like that, to get more interceptions. But like I said, he's still a good blitzer. He can. It's definitely a clip where he's blitzing. And I don't know if it was a strip sack or if it counted as a forced fumble, but it looked like it from my end whenever I'm watching all 22. So just a guy you can get your hands on the ball. But let's get into the next guy, the next prototype, kind of the best of the best. And the guy that I'm in referencing to is Kyle Hamilton, everybody's favorite safety slash nickel. He came into the league as a safety. He came into the league kind of scouted as a free safety. Then whenever he ran that slow 40, everybody was like, oh my God, how is he a first round pick? Ooh, he fell a little, he fell a little bit in the first round. I don't know if it's necessarily fell, because back then you don't draft safeties that high, but he should have been a top 10 pick. I know he talked about it before the season and during the season as top 10 pick. Once the combine happened, people start saying, oh, is he worth that? Ooh, he's shown that he's absolutely worth it. The difference between him and Brian Branch is Kyle Hamilton is basically like a linebacker, nickel, deep safety. He plays everywhere. He's your chess piece. You're going to be able to move him around. He can play the too high in the cover 4, or he can play underneath, or he can get in a loaded box and play the run with his size, especially play the run as almost a Sam or a Will linebacker. He can also play corner, your basic nickel like Brian Branch. He can press up on a guy, get his own coverage, things like that. He's a great blitzer. We all seen that play when he came off screaming off the edge, kind of from a linebacker position against the Browns, and Deshaun Watson tried to throw it over him with his size and arm length. He was able to bat it down and get an interception for a touchdown, things like that. But just a great coverage player. We seen him against Kittle when they were playing the Niners. Really, really giving Kittle a hard time whenever he was on him. Really giving Brock Purdy a hard time, because you never know where he's going to line up. He just lines up all over the formation. Like I said, he played, I think he had, 2 interceptions? One of them was like, it was just being a ball hog, just being in the right place at the right time, tip drill. But one of them was just simply good coverage. He was in it. He was at the too high. I want to say they were in cover 4. He kind of played the receiver one way, came back to the ball, got an interception when they were trying to split down the middle of the safeties. Just a really, really, really good playmaker. I think maybe one day he could be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate because of how much of a playmaker he is, how much you can move him around. He's not subject to just being your deep safety. He's not subject to just being your nickel. You can move him everywhere. He has sacks on his resume, forced fumbles, interceptions, things like that. But also what's underrated is how good of a tackler he is. I mean, he's seen him being able to wrap up and tackle Christian McCaffrey in the open field, which ain't easy. So you're not going to be limited to, hey, this guy isn't going to be good in run support with most other guys. This guy's going to be able to stay on the field for all 3 downs because he's so great in run support and because he has the size to kind of beat linemen with his speed or to shed blocks if he needs to, kind of react, things like that. Maybe not a full-time linebacker, but in spurts. For Panthers fans, almost like how Jeremy Chin was. I think that's how he should have been used, but his coverage wasn't as good as these other guys to be that nickel. But you've seen in Jeremy Chin's rookie year when he's playing close to the line, he's able to get his hands on the ball. He's able to get in on the run game, things like that. I think he had 2 touchdowns against the Vikings in his rookie year. Did he? No, he didn't win Rookie of the Year, but easily was one of the best rookies that year. He played so great because he's close to the line. That's interesting now. We talked about DaRon Bland, but also I want to say Jayron Kearse is another guy that Dan Quinn, the new Commanders office or head coach, former Cowboys defensive coordinator, is not a head coach, he's commander. He has Jeremy Chin. So he can switch him back to that Jayron Kearse linebacker role that also falls into this, but I didn't necessarily use it. I could have used it, honestly. That also falls into this, where you're just getting a really athletic, slender, safety build type of guy closer to the line to make plays, simply just to make plays. It's like having a X factor on Madden. You know, the guy that, hey, he's going to be able to just make plays that other guys can't. While other guys are just going to be able to play good coverage, defend and run, things like that. You can move him around and say, hey, go make a play. Just scream off the edge and make a play. Simple as that. But Kyle Hamilton is the best example. He's the kind of turning point of this movement in NFL, and everybody wants a safety like Kyle Hamilton now. Everybody's looking for a guy that can play that Kyle Hamilton role, and that's why I think this is the X factor on your defense. I still think pass rush is the best thing that you can have on defense, on the most important, because of how much of a passing league it is. You don't want your quarterback just sitting back there all day, just having the time of his life poised. But right behind that is either corners or these guys that I'm describing, which I feel like nickel is an incorrect term for their position, but these guys that I'm describing, these safety slash nickels slash chess pieces. But let's get into a guy that's actually a rookie coming in. Now let's talk about my boy. We already talked about him before. I got a whole video on him. Mike Sarenstill, whatever you want to call it, Frozone. Go watch the video if you want to see this guy report on him. But interesting enough, I mentioned Dan Quinn, who was DaRon Bland's coach last year, and Jayron Kearse, and how he has Jeremy Chin now. But he also has Mikey Sarenstill, another guy who I think is going to be all over the ball. Just how this is my bold prediction. I don't know if Mikey Sarenstill will win Defensive Rookie of the Year, but he'll be top 4 in voting easily. Just because if he's able to start, I think he's such good in coverage. And he's a former wide receiver, so he has really, really good ball skills. He's going to be able to create turnovers. But he's also a good blitzer. He's also great in the run game. He's standing in the box, shedding tacklers, putting a hit on guys. He's able to hit guys and really put a thump on them also, which is a good thing for Dan Quinn's defense. But he's also really, really good in coverage. He can play outside corner. I've seen him play outside corner in Michigan. He played a couple snaps in the national championship, actually. But I've seen him play whole games at outside corner when injuries have happened. He's played nickel. He's played in your cover 4, your 2 high safeties. Not necessarily a 1 high type of guy. He actually did run, I want to say 4-4 or something like that. But I don't necessarily think you want him at 1 high just because his size. But he can be a 2 high cover 4 safety if you need him to. Almost like Kyle Hamilton, he's a chess piece. You just move him around. He's shown the ability to be a really, really, really strong tackler. Really comes downhill, wraps up, really comes downhill, put his shoulder in the guy, simple as that. So I think this is the guy that's going to make a whole bunch of plays and kind of push forward that movement where, hey, it's not just Kyle Hamilton that's like the peak, the mecca of this, where you're moving him around, he's a chess piece. It's also Mikey Sarenstill. Then you have your Brian Branches that are a little bit different. Then you have your Jeremy Chins, who I kind of mentioned a little late that I didn't plan on it, but are a little bit different in that role, closer to your linebacker, run support guys. Brian Branches more of your coverage, safety type of guys. And then Kyle Hamilton and Mikey Sarenstill can be both. Those are the guys that are like the peak of this position. But that's just something I wanted to go over for a little bit. Kind of trying to losing a little luster on the offseason. I don't know what else to talk about. So we're just going to talk about guys that I like and positions that I like, things like that. But This has been a Real Boss Watcher. If you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, do all of that, share. Let me know what you think. Who is going to be one of these guys that I'm kind of sleeping on in the draft that you think could walk into this role, or somebody that can come into this role next year that could be really good in it. But I'm out. I'll see y'all next week or in 2 weeks. We'll see how this offseason go.